This is the Amazon, in the south of Ecuador, near the border with Peru, a zone with an unprecedented and unparalleled record of biodiversity. Here there are not only hundreds of animals and plants endemic to the region, but also many indigenous tribes, with little or no contact with what we call modern life and society. There is also copper, uranium and gold underneath, along with many other materials. Without counting the oil industry, so far in this area inside El Pangui County, there have been only artisanal miners, operating in small and isolated pockets of unregulated activity in the outer regions of the jungle. But now it has been reported that the development of a major large-scale gold and copper mining operations, controlled by Canadian and Chinese interests, is on its way to become a reality. On the first of such contracts, a Chinese capital control operation called Ecuadorian Sociedad Anónima will produce copper in a project called El Mirador in the Zamora Chinchipe province, here in the rainforest jungle of southeast Ecuador. The possible eventual contamination of the jungle from this mining project could be the cost of Ecuador's new social justice reforms and future development. The Korean administration has implemented a wide range of social-oriented policies, like public infrastructure projects and incremented spending in education and public healthcare. Oil future production has been sold to pay for this very expensive makeover of Ecuadorian society. However, to the majority of Ecuadorians' dismay, oil production has been falling steadily over the last few years, sparking concerns over how long the country's oil supply will really last, and with it, Ecuador's main source of income. The new Ecuadorian constitution, born out of a truly diverse and widely supported grassroots movement, is maybe one of the first and few in the world to officially recognize constitutional rights to nature. The constitutional language to refer to nature is Mother Nature, or Pachamama, for its wording in Quechua, the more popular indigenous language, and demands harmony between extraction and conservation of natural resources and life in any form. The conflict comes because at the same time the Ecuadorian state survives on a raw material-based economy. So to deal with this built-in contradiction, the administration policy is to have a well-regulated industry that redistributes the wealth, leaving a great portion of revenues in the zone where the minerals are being harvested. So, is it possible to mine and harvest raw materials while respecting the biodiversity and human life in the rainforest jungle? According to William Sacher, a French hydraulics engineer who is studying Ecuador, historically, large-scale mining projects have a bad track record with environmental pollution.
One has to understand that this tendency we observe right now to build this type of open pit mine and gigantic mines, it just corresponds to a paradoxical moment we are experiencing, and the mining industry is experiencing. On one side, you got like an exhaustion of the deposits, the rich deposits, no, the deposits which have like a high mineral load, and on the other side you got like a tremendous increasing of the mineral demands, of the global mineral demands, no. So to answer to this kind of paradox, the mining industry just go through a process of expanding, no, the exploitation, and more and more exploiting deposits of less concentration.
For every golden ring, 20 tons of rubble are produced. For every ton of copper, between 30,000 and 50,000 liters of water are spent. And all that cyanide contaminated water left over is not only difficult to contain and store, but can also contaminate surrounding areas and water sources for hundreds of years or more when spilled or leaked.
you can just in terms of just good sense. No, you don't need to be a earth scientist or or to know about epidemiology to understand that with this kind of dimension, with this tremendous production of waste, and this demand in terms of energy and water, the contamination of the water, you don't need to have this knowledge to understand that it's almost impossible to either control or predict, diagnose and predict all the impacts this exploitation are going to have on either on public health or the ecosystem, the Earth's ecosystem as a whole.
According to the Vice Chair of the Ministry for Energy and Mines, government measures seeking to control the exploitation of minerals can help offset the possible risk of environmental damage by the mining operations.
El cambio de mentalidad del país ha generado que tengamos una nueva estructura constitucional legal que nos permite una extracción de los recursos naturales de manera racional. ¿Qué significa esto? No sacar los minerales, no sacar el petróleo por sacar, sino significa aprovecharlos de mejor manera y que los recursos que generen esas actividades se queden en las zonas de influencia directa de los proyectos. Por ejemplo, el proyecto Mirador, que va a generar regalías por el orden de entre 40 y 45 millones de dólares anuales por los próximos 25 años, o sea, en monto total estamos hablando de cerca de 900 millones de dólares, esos vayan a ser invertidos en educación, en vivienda, en vialidad, en hospitales, en escuelas, en colegios. Y una vez que se satisfagan las necesidades locales, podamos pensar de que esos recursos puedan ser investidos en la región y después en el país.
When asked how the state can guarantee the clean exploitation of the resources, Terán said he believes that strict regulations can help to contain any possible environment damage, and that big companies can work with better resources than the smaller artisanal mining operations.
La gente que quiere invertir en el Ecuador tiene que someterse a la legislación y a las reglas de juego que tiene el Estado ecuatoriano. Las empresas tienen que acostumbrarse, ya pasó en el tema petrolero. Por ejemplo, en el tema petrolero, antes de las empresas de cada 100 dólares que generaba la actividad petrolera, ellos se llevaban 70, 80 dólares y solamente le quedaba al país 20 dólares. Después de la renegociación de los contratos petroleros, ahora para el Estado ecuatoriano se queda los 80 dólares y para las empresas que tienen derecho a ganar se llevan 20 dólares.
The mining issue was and still is one of the main detonators of the breakup between the government and many indigenous and social groups that formally support the Correa administration. Back in March, as many as 31,000 people marched for 15 days to show their opposition to the big mining contracts with Canadian and Chinese firms. Despite the massive numbers of demonstrators and the attention they got from many press outlets, the administration did not receive them or try to engage in dialogue. When the marchers arrived to the capital on March 22nd, they were met with a separate government-sanctioned march, supporting Correa and contrasting their March for the Water protest. Instead of agreeing to meet with indigenous leaders in the palace and listen to their demands, the administration seemed to push them aside, expressing no interest in dialogue.
Presentando falsos dilemas, el agua o la minería, como que si no se puede tener buena agua y buena minería, compañeros, no permitiremos que nos roben también eso. Nosotros somos los que más hemos defendido el agua en este país.
President Rafael Correa has high approval ratings not only here in Ecuador but also abroad. This is because he has proven himself capable and sensible to the needs of the people, rather than bowing down to the banks and corporations. His detractors have also grown in number and intensity from 20% in the first election to almost 40% on the last one. A great struggle is expected on the next elections in 2013. So why make enemies with people from many of his grassroots bases? We spoke with Manuel Chiriboga, one of the main editorialists in El Universo daily newspaper, to find out his take on the matter.
La pregunta obviamente es por qué el gobierno impulsa esta actividad que tiene esta oposición de estos dos. me parece la justificación formal que el gobierno presenta a impulsar esta actividad minera se relaciona fundamentalmente con la necesidad de que el Estado disponga en los próximos años de una renta segura de ingresos originada en la explotación minera. Una vez adicionalmente que digamos, las posibilidades de explotación continua de petróleo, que ha sido la fuente principal de ingresos para proyectos de inversión estatal, comienzan a agotar. La minería constituye, en cierta manera, un reemplazo a esa renta petrolera.
However, regardless of its origins, this conflict is very real now. It has caused a grave political polarization among many sectors of society, and it has brought with it, according to many, a criminalization of protest. In the last couple of years, there have been 124 people from indigenous communities that have been indicted, while 11 have been detained and accused of many charges, including terrorism and sabotage, all for fighting against the numerous mining operations all around the country. Just recently, Amnesty International released a report by Tamara Nelson, where the human rights organization shows deep concern for the use of the judicial system to persecute the indigenous anti-mining mobilization leaders. According to the report, after long periods in jail, most of the charges have been dropped by the judge, showing insufficient investigations or even the use of criminal charges for political purposes, arresting and intimidating the leaders of a growing sector of the population who feels that they were not properly informed and consulted about the mining projects in their lands. On June the 12th, outside the National Assembly in Quito, a number of indigenous organizations marched to celebrate Ecuadorian's 14th anniversary. Ecuadorian is one of the main indigenous organizations in Ecuador. There I got a sense of how some of the highest ranked indigenous leaders in Ecuador feel about Rafael Correa's administration.
Primero, un desconocimiento total de los pueblos indígenas. Desconoce el fundamento de las demandas de los pueblos indígenas, sin embargo dice respetar los derechos de la naturaleza, pero al momento de abrir y dar apertura a la frontera petrolera está en contra de los derechos de la naturaleza y además es inconstitucional.
El pretexto de conseguir los dólares han entregado los campos para las petroleras o para las mineras sin pensar en los territorios de los pueblos indígenas, sin pensar en los temas como el agua, la soberanía alimentaria, así es que todo eso está pendiente todavía. Por un lado, el gobierno levanta toda una campaña nacional e internacional sobre el tema yasuní. Y cuando nosotros luchamos porque se respete el Yasuní, la cordillera del Cóndor y muchos otros lugares, resulta que somos terroristas. Por supuesto que hay una enorme contradicción. Hay calificación de terroristas, hay persecución, hay muchos líderes sociales enjuiciados, otros encarcelados, otros autoridades destituidos.
The high prices of oil over the last few years have provided around 60% or more of the cash for the ever-growing budget. But as oil production declines and public needs keep growing, the responsibility to obtain revenues will be shifted to the mining sector in the near future. This is likely to happen independently of which administration is in office and its political flag. As the money from the mining projects will soon start to flow and feed the Ecuadorian Citizens Revolution social spending programs, for the people and the animals in the jungle, time is running out. Because beyond the big mining industry and its social and political conflict, there are not too many options to choose from to obtain revenues on a raw material-based economy. Reporting from Ecuador for The Real News, this is Oscar Leon.